welcome to another Biddle on Saturday, September 21st, 2019. How's everybody doing?
Excellent, thank you.
Excellent.
Oh, good here.
Fabulous.
Hello, everybody, to the stream.
Wonderful.
So, this week we are trying out, or actually these 2 weeks, we are trying out MX Linux 19, Beta 2. This is exciting stuff. And Dolphin's not going to be here tonight because he decided to run away with a circus.
Oh.
So,
Is that the MX circus?
I don't know. That's what I heard. So there you go. No, actually, he's busy with Boy Scouts, so he's not going to be
like
here.
The circus.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sorry.
But we're going to give our thoughts on it, and we're going to talk about it. So, Zeb, you want to start us out? You are muted, Zeb. Zoom is muted. Zoom. There you go. Wait.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Hi, everybody. Right. I'm actually going to wait until next week because I've got a bone to pick with Dolphin. And I've known it for years, but it's just something that I install MX and I go and change it. Now, we've all seen the marvelous clickbait video out there with regard to whether you should once or twice. And
that was not
Dolphin,
clickbait, Zeb. That was high-level conversation going on there in the after show.
But part of that conversation was Dolphin said he spent a week realizing what was wrong, and then he said he'd forgot to turn off single click. I cannot believe MX comes with single click by default. So I'm in mourning this week until I've had a chance.
Oh, is that what's wrong?
So we'll let the rest of you guys go first.
Hey, it's called cutting edge now.
It's a
All right,
feature.
Chris, did you try MX?
Yes, I did. And about the only real bug I had with it was the conky, the clock with the processor time and stuff like that, the little window up at the top of the screen wasn't updating correctly. It was writing over the letters and the numbers and stuff like that. I happened to submit a bug report on it, and apparently I'm not the only one that did submit a bug report on it. So I added it plus a couple screenshots. Hopefully that happened to be going to Dolphin. So hey, maybe he'll pick up on that and be able to be helped out with the screenshots. Other than that, I'm kind of enjoying it. It's nothing I'm finding anything spectacular or anything like that. But if it was the only thing that I had left to use, I would definitely be able to use it and enjoy myself in doing so. I went in and found out where to turn that conky off, and it doesn't bother me anymore. So hey, that's about all I have for it.
All right. Well, thank you very much indeed, Chris. Ali, welcome back to the show. Long time no see, my friend. How did you find it?
Nice to be here.
So how did you find MX?
I found MX really well. And good news, it's got a single click. It's all good. It's not a problem. Yeah, running fine. Looks like I did have also the conky problem where the text wasn't updating itself. But that's not really a showstopper. I'm hoping it could be fixed before it's released properly. But apart from that, no, I just found it a joy to use, as I have everyone since 18. It is a joy to use, MX. It really is. It's everything done right, as I call it. Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Good. Thanks very much indeed. Aris, have you tried MX this week?
I haven't got a chance to try it. I just got done taking off Kitty Neon from my computer, and I'm on Debian right now. And I'll do it next week, though. Not this week, unfortunately.
Sounds good.
All right, Kevin, how are you, sir?
Doing well, thanks. Back from a week in DC and stuff, so no, I didn't get to try MX, but I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone else has to say about it.
Dig it. Big Pod, sir.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm okay.
All right.
Did we wake him
Oh,
up?
hard word, Big Pod. You know what Big Daddy wants? Tell us about MX, you donut.
I didn't try it yet. Didn't have time. So that's why I don't have much to tell.
That's all right. That's cool. Thank you very much indeed. Dan, how are we doing?
I'm doing well. And MX, yes, it's very solid. And it's mature in the sense that you don't notice any issues. Things are very well hashed out. One of the greatest things about it is that they have all those tools to get everything the way you want them. I really, and the new theming tools that are in there. I don't know, they're just fantastic. They're definitely something that you don't find in every distribution, and you certainly don't find the complete set that they have. So it's really welcome. I could probably complain about, the panel being on the left, but they give you a tool to fix that. So, I mean, you can't complain about it anymore. So I like mine on the bottom. I think, for me, it makes the clock look better. I don't really care for it on the side, but I mean, everybody's got, a different workflow and whatnot, and they like it differently. So, I mean, the fact that they let you get it arranged the way you want, I mean, that's just fantastic to me. And it's got the Debian base, so that's super stable. No issues with that. They give you the NVIDIA tools to work with. I don't know, it's hard to complain, right? So I can't.
And being an experienced Xfce user, the thing I like about the MX tool is it switches around the applications automatically for you, because normally when you drag panels left and right, everything's in the wrong place.
Yeah.
But they just magically put all the components in the right place again. I think it's really, really clever.
Yeah, I mean, you click the button and boom, there it is. It's instant.
Colin, you've been slacking this week. I haven't seen an MX video.
No. I've been doing some other videos with MX 19 and 18.2. We're having had a viewer that asked about installing what is it? Building from source. So I did that video. That I don't know why we would bother building from source when we got things like flat packs and snaps these days, but it was just an interesting thing that had me intrigued. But MX I've got running on a virtual box and also on real hardware. Haven't really had a chance to have a look at it, but there is I like the way you can mess around with the conky colors and stuff. That's really cool. And I believe Mo West, his son, had something to do with a small piece in the settings as well, in the tweak, was it? What's Mo West's name? I can't remember his name.
Steve,
yes. Okay. So, I was sort of checking that out as well. I'm not sure how much of that he was involved with, so I'm going to have to sort of dig a little bit more into that. But I want to have a next week to look at it and then maybe have some more thoughts next week.
It's interesting you should bring that up, because if you go to the Big Daddy Discourse channel, there's been really heavy chat about MX18 this week, and Steve explains exactly which tool it is that his son built.
Yeah.
And then Dolphin comes on and says it's actually one of his favorite tools as part of the MX suite now. So how cool is that?
I think that's where I seen it actually, Zeb, was on the Discourse channel, and then I went and had a look at it. So, okay, maybe there's more chatter about that, so I might have to go and have a look. So, I might have a bit more of a chat next week when well, actually, I don't even know if I'll be here next week because I'll be over east, so I don't know if I have a chance to be on. So
priorities, Colin.
Yeah, priorities, I know. Yes, I've got to put that Linux priority up the list. I've got to, get it up there. So, but I may make a video during the week. If I can't be here, then I'll just express what I've got to say in the video, I suppose. So,
dig it. All right, Derek, sir.
Okay, Ethan. I got a little bit of a chance to work with it before I switched my computer from Arch to Fedora. But I did notice that the updater ran in a terminal, which was kind of interesting for me to see. Basically, it ran pretty smooth in GNOME boxes. And I would like to wait until next week to be able to give any more information.
That's perfectly fine, dude. Vince, sir?
Yeah, so I've been using MX18 for quite a bit of time as just a bit of a test bed for various programs and things. And this week I was actually really struggling to, think of things to say because it's just such a solid system. It's very hard to criticize. It works very well and it's incredibly stable. I used it mainly the way I tried to use it mainly the way that the devs wanted me to use it. So I kept the panel on the left, and I left it on single click, and man, was that painful. Anyway, I digress. One of the things that really bugged me was I like using the terminal, but the terminal prompt it's always a line below the where it shows your host and your username. And that bugged me to no end. So I went in and changed that. And I was playing around a lot with the MX tools because I don't normally use them a lot, but I figured that's actually one of the really big selling points of MX. So I wanted to use them quite a fair bit. And lo and behold, MX actually I got really excited because it was a bit of a first for me. I actually found a bug and I decided to report it. And that's the first time I've actually ever reported a bug.
Awesome.
And lo and behold, to Dolphin's credit, he had responded and fixed it within like about an hour or two. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic to show off the developers and the community and how great that is.
But it started with you reporting it.
Yeah, which is great. And it gave me a really warm, fuzzy feeling that I actually contributed a tiny, tiny little bit. There was something else in the tools that I found didn't work. I was trying to, one of the tweaks was to change Firefox to a dark theme, but I found that did nothing. So that might be something else. I might just go and report, we'll see how that goes. Question that I do have is that, has anybody ever gotten sort of MX tools on any other distro to work, or is that something that can be done? Because I imagine that could be a really brilliant thing.
I think they are. I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm not sure how much they're tied to MX or if they're like a package in the Debian repo. I don't know.
I might pose that question again to Dolphin next time he's on.
Yep. I didn't never notice that terminal thing, Vince, till you said something. Now I can't unsee it.
Yeah, that's right. Am I right?
You are right. It's definitely under.
I see another controversial video coming.
About that Firefox theme, the dark theme, that's a fix because if you use a dark theme in Firefox, sometimes text doesn't show up. Like there's the Debian packages. If you go in there with a dark theme, sometimes you can't look up, you can't see the things you're writing in the box. So that's a workaround that the MX provides.
I see. But
Yeah.
overall, MX is fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know whoever thought a good idea would be to have a text color dark gray on a black background, but or you can just barely letters.
And it's really strange because they provide the fix for the dark theme, whereas Peppermint's way of fixing it was forcing it to stay as a light theme, which is a bit counterintuitive. So I might have to have a word with Mark and see if we can't implement the same sort of fix. Because dark text on a dark
fix
background.
via an extension?
Say again?
Is this an extension that handles this fix, or is it just like?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm actually not sure how they do it, but it's an option that they provide.
You could ask Dolphin, but he's at the circus.
It's in MX tweaks.
Yeah, I don't know.
What we're saying is, does it just apply the extension that I found to cure that, or do they cure the formatting thing? Yeah, good question, Chicken. All right, Tony, how did you get on this week?
Well, it's on the testing laptop, but I haven't touched it all week, only because I installed it on the main system on the Sunday. and I've been using it on the main system ever since, and I'm using it now. And it's probably almost the longest I've ever been on one distro.
Wow.
I think it is brilliant. The installer was really good. I set it up easily. I've got it exactly how I like it. And it just doesn't put a foot wrong. You wouldn't know it was a beta. It just works really well. So I would give it 10 out of 10, and I'm hoping to stay on it at least for another few weeks, which will definitely be a record for me. I never stay on anything longer than about 4 or 5 days, and that's pushing it. So
Superb.
it gets a double thumbs up.
So you might have found your home that when things go wrong, oh, I can just install MX and everything will be fine for a week.
I would imagine that's a good possibility. I like Xfce anyway, but the implementation, the way this has been done, is really nice.
Cool. Thank you very much indeed. Joe, how are you doing? Hope you're well, my friend.
I'm doing okay. I just loaded it up tonight, so I haven't had a chance to really work with it that long. The one thing I wanted to comment with Chris, I think you said that you had trouble with the time lining up, and I did too initially. I'm not going to go through a whole review, but as soon as I loaded the codecs, boom, it took care of it. Because when I first did the install, I picked local instead of UTC, just to see if that would make a difference too. And so I don't know. But anyway, it looks very clean, and I'm going to work with it another week, and I'll get my report next week.
Nice.
I spent about a day trying to mess with that because I had set it for 24-hour time and it was showing me 12-hour time on that also. But even with the locality set right. But they, like I said, I reported it. I figured out how to turn the conky off, and it doesn't bother me anymore. So
did you put the codecs in though? I guess that's what I'm asking.
No, it probably might have worked on this. I have such an ancient computer, and it's limping along that codecs probably break it.
Oh, okay. Because this isn't that old, but I noticed that's what fixed it immediately as soon as I loaded the codecs up just now. So
I'll see if I'll try it and see if it works. So,
okay.
Thanks.
Barb, you're muted, Barb.
I didn't get a chance to try it. In fact, I was busy all week, but I just didn't set up my USB.
Okay.
So I'll have something for next week.
Dig it. Scott, sir?
Yeah. So I've got MX Linux in a VM, only because my 2005 HP laptop is still enjoying Endless OS on it, and I didn't want to remove it to put MX on it. And it works really well in a VM, so I expect it works exceptionally well on hard metal. So I've noticed only a few technical issues that are extremely minor that I'm sure would be fixed or worked out for a full release. As we mentioned about the panel, I like to be on top, and my panel to be on top, sorry. And the only problem I have is the panel doesn't detect or adjust any icons down when the panel goes to the top. So the desktop stays full screen regardless, and some icons get displayed underneath the panel. Same thing with opening a browser. It doesn't detect the bottom of the panel, and you can in order to go full screen with it automatically, drag it to the top, and it drags underneath the panel in order for it to trigger a full screen. So it's just a detection issue as far as the panel goes. I really like the fact that it's sitting at just under 500 megabytes of memory used installed, which is very minimal, which is very cool. I didn't have any problems with changing my conky or getting rid of it altogether, even after changing screen resolutions. So that's very smooth and very easy to work with. Another small thing is the notes. So there's a notes that's like a sticky notes app that's on there. Unfortunately, all of the notes that I started, they only save the very first sentence or the very first note that you put in there from one session to the next. So if you add more notes to a note, it's gone when you reboot or relog in. It only saves the very top one on all the notes.
And have you logged that?
What's that?
Have you logged that with them yet? Because that sounds like quite a biggie. Have you logged?
Well, being that most people don't use sticky notes, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's just a minor issue because you either write all the note to the first time you open the note. I don't know how many people actually come back and add to their notes, and that's just where the glitch is. But I will mention that to him so that he's aware of that fact. So minor, but maybe major, but maybe minor, hard to say. Other than that, I themed up really well. I was able to change to darker themes, and all the windows, Thunar and Terminal and everything just adapted really, quickly soaked up the theme real quick. I enjoy it. I think it's going places. I think it's going to give Endless the run for the money.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I've got a funny feeling your windows going underneath the top bar might be a virtual box, because I don't have that problem here at all. I don't know if anybody else has noticed that problem, or if they're running it, can they quickly test it? Because I just maximized my Firefox and it sits perfectly under the top bar.
I'm running VirtualBox now. I'll check it out.
Yeah, I have it on bare metal and I don't have that issue. So
yeah, I don't
so it's
either.
probably just an issue.
Yeah,
it could be. Yeah. All right, Dan.
It could be my machine because I'm experiencing this in VM, but also I run Linux Mint 19. It does that on my Linux Mint too. So I don't. It could be just a video issue.
No, it's not happening here.
Okay, it's me. Good old AMD.
Thank you very much indeed, Scott. Dan, welcome. And how did you find MX?
I tried it first in a virtual machine and then moved to bare metal with it. The installer's kind of old and plain looking, but it does work, and that's what really counts. And I incline to believe after the installer's done, you all these beautiful login screens and splash screens that come up, and then you get the beautiful wallpaper after you log in. I have no reason to believe that sooner or later Dolphin will come around and spruce up the installer. Is it an installer that he made?
Well, I don't know about him, but I think the MX team made it, yeah.
Okay. So that's what they're probably going to do. It works, and that's what counts. I found there's an awful lot of tools in MX and stuff like that to play with. A lot of settings to adjust. Like Dan said, you can pry the panel loose and move it wherever you want. It easily went from one monitor to the bottom of another one for me. I did have some bugs though. I had one issue. I don't know if it's something to even worry about, but I was watching a YouTube video and all of a sudden the video stopped playing, but the sound was still going along and the keyboard and the mouse no longer responded. That happened to me twice.
That was on bare metal, Dan?
On bare metal. However, I do have weird bared metal.
What kind of machine is it?
It has an Asus X470 motherboard with a 2700X processor, and it's got an RX 570 graphics card.
That doesn't sound weird to me.
Well, the kernel people know about this, and they have to fix the kernel. And Debian just got new Pulse audio software as an update. And I'm wondering if it's gone over to MX yet.
So
because all my audio issues disappeared in Debian the minute they did their big Wazoo update.
Yeah, this isn't an abnormal problem. As much as people say AMD just works, there are some serious kernel issues with the RX 580 and Vega cards that cause problems like this. Like, this isn't
I beg your pardon, sir. You're not talking about the AMD that just works, are you? You must be talking about a different AMD.
That's why I always kind of like shoot people down when they say AMD just works, is because like there are issues like this that do exist, and it's
Yeah,
not.
and I've had this screen. It doesn't. The screen freezing or the controls freezing up and the sound coming out, but the YouTube stopped moving. I've had that with Mint and Ubuntu. I do not have it with Debian or anything Arch based. It just keeps going and going and going. And I can put the machine to sleep for a week and on end every day, on and off, on and off, on and off, and everything works out fine. But
And this is Debian. Weird.
Dan,
Yeah,
would you
what I
have
thought.
would you feel comfortable filing a bug for that?
If it's necessary.
Well, I think they would want to know about the freezing and whatnot. That's something I think you may want to, if you have time and if you feel comfortable doing it, to file a bug. Nate posted the link in the YouTube chat for the bug reports for MX.
Okay.
And the thing is, Dan, you don't have to be technical. You can just tell them exactly like you told us now, and they might come back to you and ask you for logs or something. But
Well,
if you
here's the thing.
plain English.
I told Dolphin if it's got bugs, I will probably find them if it's hardware specific to my machine last week, and he said he'd be here this week.
No, he's not. So maybe next week he'll be here. Who knows?
But other than that, it works great. I really like it. For me, it has a little too much stuff built into it. But for other people, obviously, MX is targeted to a particular audience, so I can't say it's good or bad. It's just my taste.
Well, I have to say, I agree that it's not my taste as far as on a whole. So, well, I'll give my opinion after you give yours, Dan. So continue on.
Well, with that said, all I can say is that it installed. I didn't have any trouble installing it. It has beautiful artwork and stuff like that goes with it. I'm not a big fan of Xfce, but I can make it work, and I can get over that. The double click thing, I didn't even really pick up on that. I started clicking. Hey, this opens. I clicked it once, and it just became a habit after a while. It wasn't something that I was really concerned about. And the Conky, I have two monitors. It kind of wants to stick on one monitor, and that's the monitor I usually do all my work on. So I don't even have to look at it, so it doesn't bother me that I can't move it. I figured if I come across the settings somewhere to do something with something, because there's so much settings in this. Like the double click, I wouldn't know where to tell somebody on tech support or over the phone or something to change it to double click from single. I'd have to
that's in MX tools. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why you'd need to do that, but
well, it's not something you immediately know where off the top of your head at least me, know where it's at. I'd have a lot of the stuff I stumble across. And I did want to say, if you can't find the application you're looking for in the MX repos, you can definitely use Flatpaks. They do work.
Nice.
Well, going back to what I was saying, I love MX Linux for what it does, for what it allows people to do with Debian. You can have a great Debian. The install that I went and did worked perfect. It had zero problems, and that includes formatting the drive or letting the installer format the drives, which usually is a big hang-up in some installers. You get to the desktop, and you got a fully functional desktop that looks great, that not only is fully functional, gives you a welcome screen for, excuse me, all of the things that you need, like popular apps, because it has Synaptic on it, but it doesn't have like a software center on it. But you do have the MX tool, the popular app tool, where you can install things like Spotify and things that may not be in the Debian repos. All of these little tools that they put in are exactly what somebody who is not technical needs on a Debian install. Going to Xfce, I love Xfce for what it is. It's functional. It's customizable. It allows you to do whatever you want with it. But it's just not my taste.
I love the fact that you can right click on the mouse and poof, all your stuff opens up right in front of you on the screen. That's the best part of Xfce I do like.
Yep. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It works fantastic. I love a lot of the things they put into it. It's just not for me.
Now, a question about the Synaptic Package Manager. Isn't it a Synaptic Package Manager, but it's like rewrote to handle apt? Because if you type snap in the terminal, it does not have systemd in it.
No, systemd is hidden when you first. Yeah, when you first boot up MX Linux, and if you see the grub screen, go to the advanced section of that grub screen for MX, and you will have the option to run systemd. I don't know what the init system is. Is it sysv or something?
I think no. I think I misspoken. It doesn't have the stuff to run snap packages. What I meant.
No, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Because snaps only work on systemd, so you have to go into the advanced grub menu and choose the systemd option to boot.
Well, that brings me to my next thing, the Synaptic Package Manager. Why is it named that if it doesn't do snaps?
Because
it's just
it's
nothing related.
Synaptic. It's nothing to do.
Synaptic's been around since 1993.
Years before snaps. Years before snaps. Yeah. Just sounds the same.
No, not another thing I wanted to say about MX, the literature that comes with it on the screen. I did look through that. Some of it's a couple years out of date, but it is great reading material. If you have the free time, dig through the Q&A and dig through the manual and look at some of the stuff that Dolphin has put in there, because it is good stuff. And
excellent. Thanks very much indeed.
That's all I have to say about
yeah, cool. Well, if you're going to be using it continually throughout the week as well, you might have a couple of more snippets that you find, because the thing I love about your reports is you seem to dig into places that no one else goes. I mean, I just put a machine on and I just use it. I never think to duck and dive and dig into all these little corners, but you come up with these marvelous little, well, did you notice this? And did you notice that? You're a bit like Rocco too. You can find stuff and break it. It's brilliant.
I can break it.
Well, that's because if I get the wow factor in the virtual machine with the distro, I will put it on a 5.5 mechanical Rust drive and put it in the machine and try and use it for a week. And if I'm really feeling gutsy, I'll try and put Zoom in it and come on the stream with it. But I didn't have enough time to get that far with it this week. But cool. I will play with it. I will try and break it. I will see what it'll do. You know, I'll see what installs on it, what don't.
Excellent, thank you. Ivan, welcome. And did you try MX? Your mic's not working, my friend. No, still can't hear you. We'll come back to you in a moment. Just cough or something, and we'll hear it working. Eric.
Mine might not be working either. Can you hear me?
Yes. Fine.
Okay, good. It is working. So no, I just installed it and had every intention of getting around to it. And it was just one of those weeks where every time I thought, let me go try that, just something came up. So I'm going to have to go next week, and that's probably okay, because I'll have an opportunity to really test it instead of trying to just force it in.
All right, chicken.
Hi there. How's it going?
What's happening?
It's wonderful. Is my mic too loud?
It is not.
Sweet.
If anything, it's a bit soft.
Oh, is it? It's probably because it's like 2 feet away from me.
Is this better?
That's way better, dude. So did you try MX, dude?
I did. Yes. I tried it on a little laptop of mine, and I mean, it's good. It's quick. I mean, boot up was fairly quick, although, I mean, I'm not a fan of the fact that it doesn't use systemd by default, because that just means a lot of things don't work by default. But if that's okay, then that's okay. You can switch to systemd pretty easily, and use, normal apps like normal people, and it works. I think one of the things that I really like about it is how easy it makes it to use the like the boot up tools. So when you stick it in, you have either like the persistent boot, have things like that, or you have the boot to RAM. So essentially, it loads the entire ISO into RAM rather than running off the USB stick. It's all really good stuff. I mean, you can do that with Debian, but it's just way easier to do with MX because it presents it to you like right at the beginning. So I think those tools are really useful. It's jam packed with fun stuff like that, but it's I'm not really a huge Xfce guy, so but I love Big Deb, so
yeah. Well, if I could maybe suggest something for them, this is made maybe not for like brand new users, but they do put a lot of tools in here to make it easier. And I think that the welcome screen doesn't do the tools that they have the justice that they deserve. Like, there are so many useful and good tools in here. The welcome screen has a list, like the frequently asked questions and the videos and the codecs and popular apps. But for, like I said, when I went to look at the system, I went to look at it from, acting like I didn't know anything, and I'm just trying this for the first time ever. I left the panel where it was, and I go and I look, well, let me see if I can install some other software. So obviously I don't find a software manager. I see Synaptic, and then it dawns on me, well, okay, I should have went to the welcome screen, and because I had closed that immediately. And then I found the popular apps. I went and typed in the menu to type in for software, but nothing came up. So that app didn't come up in the search for the what do you call menu? The whisker menu. So I think that there should be more of a welcome screen like Budgie has, like Ubuntu Mate has, where you can click through the different screens and it shows you what you can do with it. I know that may mean, rewriting a welcome screen or maybe even pulling in one of the other ones, but I don't think this welcome screen does the apps justice because they're awesome apps. Not only can you install whatever software you want from the popular apps, but you can install multiple things at once. Just go down the line and check whatever you want to install and install the 25 programs you want to install, and it does it automatically. So these are things that are awesome. But if you don't find it, you don't know about it.
But I struggle with quite a few of them because the naming is not quite right for them, and you don't know what they do until you open them and play with them. So what you're saying about the welcome screen be a big help.
One of the things that the Chicken mentioned was that they don't run System D. I think it's because they share a lot of code with Antix, and Antix is very anti-System D, and that's they're kind of forced into it, I think, for that reason.
The thing with System D, if you want to use it, I remember Dolphin saying something, because I had asked about this when we were doing 18.3 or whatever it was, the last one. Mm-hmm. And he said that you can have it set so he does provide System D on there. So you can switch that so it boots up with System D.
Yeah, but unfortunately,
I don't remember exactly. Once I get into it, I'll know where it is.
Yeah, unless you know how to personalize your own grub, or unless you know how to use Grub Customizer and drag the normal entry below and put the System D one at the top, you will every single time have to go into Advanced and pick System D. And I was just about to add, and I'm going to jump on the forums after the show and put this as a suggestion. Like they've got tools for switching up everything else, I think it would be really good if they had a tool to say, no, I prefer System D, and it automatically does those grub changes for you so that it remembers it. That, I think would be a great addition.
That would be a good idea.
Okay, Ivan, did you manage to get your mic working? No. We still can't hear you. Sorry about
that. Big Pod. No, he already said he's not going. He switched. You came back, dude. You left and came back. How could you?
He wanted me to call him a donut again.
Adam, sir.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's going on?
Not a whole lot, man. Just enjoying GNOME 3.34.
Oh, I don't remember that being on MX.
Yeah, funny it's not. Nor am I. Yeah, no, I didn't take a look at it this week. I probably won't, to be honest. So,
okay. Nate.
Well, hi there. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes.
Hi. Sorry, I was late. I apologize. Just got off doing my work thing.
Are you Michael?
So
he's cubicle.
No, I'm not
late.
live streaming.
Okay.
Cubicle. Oh, all right, I'm gonna change that right now. So this is not a very fair challenge for me because I really heart MX Linux a lot. I think Xfce, like of all the GTK desktops, I think it's the best one. Go ahead and throw your tomatoes, throw your rotten eggs. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But I think it's the model desktop because it's easy to customize. They've made it nice. So what I like about MX, pretty much everything. What don't I like about it? It doesn't have zipper. I've actually been using it since the last challenge on a couple of machines, and that won't change. And actually, since then, I've been actually contributing a little bit to the project as well. So it's not a very,
What have you been doing, dude?
I'm now mostly documentation. I've written several articles on a wiki site now. I'm actually, a lot of the stuff I do in OpenSUSE, I'm basically transposing it to MX Linux isms. So like I can lamp stack some information about AppArmor since they're doing more stuff with that now. KDE Connect in Xfce, stuff like that. Trying to really integrate to with the rest of my life here. So, but yeah, no, I think MX is great. I don't actually have any issues with things locking up on it or like mouse or keyboard or anything else. It's maybe because I have all older hardware. I don't know.
Well,
could be.
This test machine that I put it on is probably older than, well, it is. It's not probably. It is older than Dan's, but it's probably newer than yours. So as a middle of the road,
2010 is how old I'm. One of the machines.
Yeah, so this is definitely older or newer than that, but it has no problems running it. So
yeah. So I would say there could be some improvements, I think, on that splash screen to tell you how to configure certain things like your single double click and where you want your panel. Like the panel should be on the bottom. I don't know why anyone puts anywhere else. Actually, they should just get rid of any other option but the bottom for all Linux, as far as I'm concerned.
That's a personal choice.
I know. That was an opinion, though.
We asked for his opinion, Colin.
I mean, actually, it's really easy to put like wherever you want it, which I think that's great. But I'm not a savage, so I put it on the bottom. So, so I don't know. I'm happy with MX. I'm continuing to do the beta testing, and I report bugs as necessary. So, but actually, I talk to Dolphin sometimes directly when I have a problem. So, yeah, I'm good.
Sorry, Frank.
Hey.
Bill.
Oh yes, MX Linux. Let's see, where should I begin? So, like Nate, I like MX a lot, and a long time ago, I actually did some testing with Dolphin to work on snaps. So, good and the bad. For the good part, for as small a team as this is, they have some of the best documentation available. The MX Linux manual, it's like, 200 pages almost? And everybody goes the RTFM stuff. This manual has almost everything you need. It is awesome. There is a lot of work that has been put into this manual. The tweak tool and the MX tools themselves are awesome. Obviously, I work with a distro that is very big on a tweak tool and a welcome screen. And the one thing that MX may not be doing great is that welcome screen is kind of barren. There's not a lot there that really says what some of the stuff is. And it's a lot of work because everybody's going to complain, just like the whole systemd, sysinit stuff. I mean, there is they have a big article on their website on why they don't use systemd as a default. And they have a very good rational reason for it. The one thing that MX really does well is, so we have this thing that we really believe, but we make it pretty darn easy for you to use systemd if you want to. And a lot of distros don't really do that. They give you, unfortunately, you were going to do it this way, and that's how it's going to be. And if you don't like it, move on to the next one. But they give you a really good option. And I mean, I have not had any issues. The only time I've ever crashed MX Linux, and it's not on this test, is when I started doing something really stupid with backports, and it was all on me. And I think it's one of the, if you're going to use Big Deb and avoid, canonical products for whatever reason, and want to stay in the Debian world, and you want to use Xfce, I think this is the only way to fly. That's it.
Yep.
Cool.
I have to agree. I think it is the one to go if you want to use Debian, just the way it is. Deb, you want to give any final thoughts?
Well, I was going to say that I am going to give my main review next week, but I want to pick up on something that Sleepy Eye Vince brought up, and that's the forum and the way they react. Now, I've been using computers since the mid-'80s and Linux since about 2009, 2010. And other than Peppermint, I've never found a forum as friendly, responsive, and informative as the MX Linux guys. Every single person who goes onto that forum, whether they're an expert or a new user, if they've got something to add to the conversation, they chip in and they let you know. And just because you're a new user doesn't mean you don't know the answer. And something within your answer will help. So I've never seen anybody shouted down. The one time that I did post up something that was wrong, the response I got told me what I was doing wrong, why I was doing it wrong, and this was the right way to do it, and this is why it's the right way to do it. So I learned from my mistake. But what was really interesting as well was because I'd told somebody to do something wrong, they were able to submit a bug that says, well, hang on a minute, you shouldn't be able to do that at all, so we're going to fix that. So they really do have an absolutely astonishing forum. And certainly when they're in beta testing, they are really, really quick to fix problems. So the only issue they've got for me left to fix is FFmpeg, because it's still not 100% working with the latest OBS. But then that's the usual, your drivers are too old and this isn't, the kernel's not big enough and all the rest of it. So I'm really sure that they'll have that fixed before it comes out as a product. So yeah, if you've never experienced the MX Linux forums, go and jump in there. They are a great bunch of people.
Absolutely.
Rocco, I just want to tell Scott with his problem with the windows going underneath the panel. If you go into panel preferences and uncheck don't reserve space on borders, right? That's probably your problem.
Why is that not checked by default?
Yeah, I reckon that'll probably fix my Linux Mint issue as well.
Yep.
But yeah, Scott, I said the same thing in the side chat. There's settings you could do that in Mint.
Mm. And a good question, Shikin, but then why is not double click by default?
Well, I mean, in terms of single click and double click, like it's technically more efficient, but like as a default, most people don't use it. But in terms of like maximizing the panel, actually having to move windows underneath panels to maximize them doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, true.
Daniel, do you have anything you want to add to the MX conversation?
I have not had a chance to play around with it, so I'll go next week.
Okay, that's fine.
Just so you know, Daniel, your microphone's a little bit low. You might get lost in the melee.
Anybody want to throw anything else out there about MX?
Yeah, I just want to ask if anyone did have any problems at all installing with UEFI manually, because I had an error. I had an error on one of my desktops. I'm going to have to probably go back and reinstall it to find out what that error is, because I may have to let them know about that. I'm hoping Dolphin might watch this. I had to do legacy install instead of EFI because it wouldn't let me do it.
Can I ask you 3 questions about that install?
Yep.
Did you give it its own ESP partition?
Yes, I did.
Are you using a file system other than ext4 for root?
No.
Okay, then I only have 2 questions.
No.
I'll tell you where you missed it, because I miss it virtually every single time. You know where you tell it where you want to install grub? You're then we're then presented with three radio buttons.
Yes.
NBR, boot, or ESP.
Yep.
If you don't click that ESP button, UEFI don't work.
Well, the ESP won't come up unless you actually set ESP in the boot partition anyway. In gparted, once you set boot ESP in that, then it automatically checks off the ESP anyway in that. So it did do that.
Yeah.
But it errored after that.
Is this on a drive that has other partitions on it?
No.
Then I suggest you try allowing it to partition it the way it wants to, because I did that on this one and it worked fine on UEFI and booted right up.
Well, what I've done is I've simulated the same thing in VirtualBox with EFI, and it doesn't happen in VirtualBox. So I simulated the EFI install, but that didn't happen. I was hoping it did. It would have made it easier for me, but I will try a full install. I might do that again, try a full install. I'm just happy with the way it looks. It's really birdy at the moment, but
you might want to check your BIOS too and see if it's selected for EFI or non-EFI installations.
Well, when I first downloaded the ISO, I checked the MD5 on it, and it was fine. I I put it on a USB and put it in the machine, and it would not boot to the live disk. It just gave me a black screen with a grub error or something. Then I went back over and re-downloaded it, checked the sum again. It was fine. Put it on the USB, came over here, and it worked perfectly. So it must have been somewhere in the writing process that it got messed up the first time, but the actual install went perfect.
Okay.
Did you get a message that said something about PCX or something like that in a box on the screen?
No.
Are you talking to me or Rocco?
Either one of you.
I cannot remember.
I had that happen to me twice on a fresh boot, and then I would hit the reset button, and then it would start up.
Yeah.
I'm going to report that to see if I can find what the problem is, and somebody can help me out.
I should have wrote it down.
Yeah, everybody knows how complicated my system is, and MX just installs every time. It just works.
Mm-hmm. Dan, next time that happens, you should take a picture of it. That way you don't have to write it down. That way you know exactly what it is. Well, the only thing else I'm going to say about MX is I love what they're doing. These guys put a lot of hard work and effort into this, and you can see it by all of the tools that they have in it, all of the care that they put into it. You can see the thought in it when you look at it. And although I'm not a big Xfce guy, it's funny because I like Xfce. It feels comfortable. It's good. It's okay. It's just not for me. Again, like I guess that's the only way I can say it. But the MX guys do a ton of work. Dolphin does a great job of promoting it everywhere and promoting the community, as Zeb said. So hats off to them guys. And we will check out the rest of it next week. Yep.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan.
All right. On to some more important matters. I put out a video like today. and you know, some people seem to take it serious. Like, I put out this video and I cut up the after show for a reason, because it was a hilarious conversation, not because of the actual content that we were talking about. and go check out the YouTube comments on it. And you got some people thinking that this is really a serious conversation that we have. And it's just
that's because we're so intense.
We've got to save the mic, remember?
What's
What I wrote, Rocco? I think you did, right? You saw what I wrote, right?
Yep.
The next conversation is going to be right wheel drive or left wheel. Which side the steering wheel belongs on?
On the right. On the right, of course.
On the right, yeah.
I am legally able to do both.
As God intended. Just saying.
So
I like Chris's.
if you
I really
happen
like
to watch
Chris's
that
comment.
video, just know that it's a joke, for crying out loud. Sheesh. I'm not even going to respond to the comments like that. I'm just not even going to respond to them because it's not worth it. If I got to tell you that it's a joke, then that's a bad joke. You know what I mean? Like, it's not funny anymore if I got to tell you it's a joke. Just saying.
Well, then just tell better jokes, Rocco.
Yeah, that's what I should do.
Hang on a minute. Pick up on one thing you said. You said you're now legally allowed to drive both. I mean, you can't by default?
So there are like certification things that you can get to not only like drive them, but to own them and drive them on like public roads. So I have like a certification to own and drive right-hand vehicles in the US.
So you get told that you, wow, because I can go out and buy any car I want to. Right in the middle, I can use it.
You're not, well, okay, so it depends on city regulation and state regulation. So here, by default, you cannot do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anywhere
It depends. You're in what? You're in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it has to do with each state's regulations.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you have to get certified in New York State to have a.
I don't think so. But I think in certain parts of California, you do.
Yeah, but in New York State, you don't have to. Not that we see them very much, especially up here in the boondocks.
Left hand, right hand.
Oh, but we do
Caucasian.
see the Postal Service, U.S. Postal Service, rural route delivery, which is what I have. They all have right-hand drive.
Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They do here as well.
Yeah.
They have to get a certification for it.
Yeah, but
Wow.
here they don't. You know.
You can't go to the dealer and get a brand new car that's in kilometers over miles per hour because it was sent here or swapped out here from Canada.
Oh, you just push a button and it changes it. At least on my car.
I used to be a mechanical speedometer.
I love
this. Oh, yeah.
Whatever cars come with them anymore.
Kilometers for the win.
Both.
Kilometers are fine.
So it always goes downhill.
5 kilometers and miles per hour.
It always goes downhill.
That's what my car has. It's got both.
Why don't we just put the steering wheel in the middle, worldwide, done, deal, finished, end of story.
And then just have a three-wheeled car.
There
was one. Was it the message?
Reason why.
Robin.
Okay, so hold on. We're all talking at the same time and nobody can hear anything. So one at a time.
Colin, there was in the 1960s, at least in they imported them from Germany, the Messerschmitt. It was a three-wheeled car, and the driver was the only one who sat in the front.
Well, normally Messerschmitt was only a one-seater car anyway.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Scott, what do you want to say?
I was just going to tell or say that the reason chicken is getting a certification, and it does differ from state to state. It's all a safety issue because right-hand or left-hand drive is all about seeing the center line when you look out your window down at the road. So if you are on a right-hand drive, your center line is on your right. And if you are using the opposite kind of car, you don't have the field of view or the vision that you have when you're using the correct car and the correct road rules. So it's all about safety and your visibility. If your center line is on the right and you're driving on the left, you can't see down the road, you can't see behind you. So the closer you are to that center line, the further down the road you can see forward and back, as well as making turns. So you have to have a certification to drive the wrong car on the road.
Yeah, as like just a general note, like from my experience, especially driving downtown here, it's really hard to make left-hand turns in a right-hand drive vehicle. Like I struggle with that all the time.
And Chicken is all about following all the legal rules when he's driving his vehicle.
Yes, exactly.
Alan, all you got to do is just drive it backwards, and you'll be on the right side.
Especially when
at a ludicrous speed
in the passenger seat.
All right,
Going,
let's steer this car back to Linux. All right.
Yeah.
One click is safer for your joint. So, I'll tell you that.
Eric, are you on your new build?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually next to my new build. So I'm working through some new PC issues. The BIOS settings are confusing. I don't know if it's for Windows or what, but weird things. Virtualization wasn't enabled. The auto config for the memory speed is 2400 instead of 3200, which it's supposed to be. I noticed all the memory timings are off. Like, I have to dig through there and
yeah, but did you buy this and you're building it yourself?
Hmm?
Did you buy all the bits and you're building it yourself?
Yeah, I actually just upgraded my old system, so I kept my case and I just replaced the motherboard, the processor, and the memory.
Yeah,
And
so the motherboard's going to come blank, bog standard. You got to configure it for the way you want it.
Is it an AMD system, like a Ryzen chip?
It is. It's a Ryzen 7 2700X on a Asus ROG Strix Gaming X4 70.
Nice.
The good stuff
You got
then.
the same thing I got.
Very nice.
So typically with the Ryzen boards, a lot of that stuff won't be properly configured. So one of the biggest things is always memory. It's really annoying to set memory configs with AMD chips.
But that's not necessarily true either, Chicken, because it could be Intel or AMD. What basically a lot of them will default to the lower settings until you turn on XMP.
Typically with Intel boards, though, it's set to detect it beforehand. So with AMDs, none of them are set to do that.
Yeah, well, it's not uncommon for that. And then, a lot of the settings you're dealing with in there, Eric, are pretty normal. But, I guess, yeah.
But if you want some advice, go and have a look at Level 1 Tech, Wendell.
Oh, yes.
He gets unbelievably technical, but at the same time, you get those little snippets of information and you try to work out what to put this on, what to put that on, how to configure this. You might have to watch the same video 10 or 15 times to get past the fact that he's whizzing through this at 3,000 miles an hour. But boy, does that guy know his stuff.
Yeah.
He's whizzing through it at 3,200 megahertz.
In 3600, you never know, Wendell. So it's great. The Asus board has a ton of configurability. I just get in there and play around.
That BIOS is a nightmare. I have the same one, and I got to the point where I just put everything on automatic, so it runs fine with it all on automatic. And if I have a crash, I can blame it more on an OS than the machine.
Okay. So that what I found though is if it was on automatic, it wanted to set my memory speed to 2400 instead of 3200. It wants to set the clock.
Yeah, but I have the same problem. Do you really need the 3200?
Yes,
absolutely. Ryzen is very sensitive to memory timing.
Listen, I paid for better memory. I'm not going to let it run at 2400. That's
Ryzen likes 3000 or higher right now, and the next
I have 3600,
like 32.
Well, if you let it set to auto and you have 3600 memory, then you should check because it's probably running at 2400, which is pointless.
I don't notice the speed difference though in Linux.
Well, then
you would if you were gaming, or if you're doing any kind of heavy processing, you'd notice it then.
When I'm doing like video renders and I have it set to 2400, I'll have like maybe a 30-minute render. And when I set it up to 3666, it goes down to about 15 minutes. Like it makes a huge difference.
Okay, that's where you guys that are YouTubers would really notice this kind of a thing.
I notice it when I'm running like 3 or 4 different virtual machines at the same time too.
Yeah, memory speed and timings make a huge difference in the overall responsiveness and performance of your system. Your system uses that RAM for everything, for caching your disks, for everything. So. And the difference between 2400 and 3200 and 3600 is monumental. So,
yeah. For future reference, Dan, if you're not going to bother using 3600, save yourself a shed load of money and buy 2400.
Yeah.
I already have the 36.
So the only other thing that
you're not bothering to set it. It's like
having a low latency kernel.
I don't think you're going to win that. that argument, Seb, but
I might try it now that everybody's recommending it. I mean, should I jack my CPU up till the fan?
No.
No, but the RAM, why buy faster RAM if you're not going to utilize its capabilities? And when you set that higher speed for the RAM itself, a lot of times it will automatically adjust timings too. If you have them set to auto, you got to be careful. If you manually set them though, because if you go too high, you could wind up with a misboot where you wind up with a black screen or that kind of thing, and then you just go back and set them back. But usually, if you adjust the RAM, the timings will automatically set on their own too. Most boards.
Mm-hmm. Big Pod, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the RAM timings are really important on Ryzen. I see that on many systems that they built, because the Infinity Fabric inside the CPUs, when it has two dies, the interconnect runs at the same speed as RAM. That's why you need fastest RAM possible. Nowadays on the blue one, the third gen Ryzen, they have two different settings for Infinity Fabric speed and speed of the memory, but they're still somewhat interconnected, so you can have much difference between them.
Another way to kind of draw the line between why it's so important to have good memory timings as well is that if you look at the speed your CPU is working at, and then you look at the speed your memory is working at, you don't want the speed of your memory to be significantly lower than the speed of your CPU, because then your CPU is just wasting cycles waiting for information to come to it or to be written, and that's a lot of wasted power and time, and things have to be resynchronized. And
that makes sense.
And that's why I buy my PCs pre-built, so I don't have to worry about that.
I enjoy it. So I haven't had a chance to build or work on my PC in quite a while. It had been in a pretty sorry state. I just hadn't been in here using it and been trying to do everything on my laptop. And my laptop's great. It's 6-core, i7 chip, and so it's plenty powerful. And to be honest, there isn't such a huge distance between that laptop and this Ryzen chip that I'm noticing it's definitely way better than that 3rd gen i5 that I had. But it was really a lot of fun to build it. And I'll tell you, Zeb, the cool thing for me was I got to enlist my daughter to help me, my 7-year-old. And so she got to install my NVMe drive, and she got to, plug in some wires.
You didn't let her put the processor in? Man.
No, I didn't.
Did you put the strap on her arm first and ground it? Grounding strap?
Yeah, she was all into
Eric, what about the most important feature? Cable management.
You know what? I do not care.
You should though, because if it blocks airflow, it'll affect the efficiency of your machine.
So the Ryzen cooler that comes with this, the Wraith cooler, it has RGB on it, and it's so silly. I honestly, I don't like RGB. I think it's really silly. So my daughter, though, my 7-year-old daughter, she's like, "That's so cool." I'm like, "You're the target audience for that."
She's the smart one.
It is a nice looking fan.
No LEDs. Imagine that. So the only one complaint I have so far is that that cooler is kind of loud. Like it spins up and it's sort of loud. I'm used to this system having a big air cooler on it with slow fans, so I may not stick with this default.
Yeah, get either a Hyper 212 Evo or a Noctua or something like that. You'll be
now, Eric, did you plug the fan into the correct fan thing? Because there's 2 of them on that motherboard.
Oh yeah, no, it does what it's supposed to. When it's under load, it jacks up the fan speeds and the curves are right. And it's not that. It's just the fan itself is pretty small diameter. It's not a very large fan, and so when it spins fast,
when it picks up, it just irritates you.
Well, I'm used to this being, even under the absolute heaviest load, just being silent because of those big air coolers, and they're not expensive, so I'll probably just end up buying one of those. I thought I would try this because it came with it, and
I'm really happy for you, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it's cool. It's been a long time since I've done it. I put it off for 6 or 8 months. Last week I got a wild hair and just said, "That's it. It's time to just order the parts." And for the motherboard, the memory, and the processor, it was right around $500. I have
God, you paid half as much as I did for mine.
I always buy last generation. As soon as the 3rd gen came out, I was like, "Yep, I'm in. I'm going for the."
I've had my system for a year and like 3 months.
Yeah, I never go. it's like a car. I don't buy new cars because I don't want that premium.
I walked into Micro Center with one thing on mind. I told them this machine better run Linux and it better do it good.
Well, it's running. So I put Kubuntu 1904 on it, of course, and it's running amazing. It really is. It's fantastic. I have my old NVIDIA GTX 970. And
which graphics card did you choose?
The GTX 970. It's the old one that I have left over. I just didn't see a reason to really update it at this point. I'm doing video rendering, and most of that's CPU based anyway, which is the point of the Ryzen.
I needed another card, so I got the RX 580, I believe, because I have a spare card.
And when it's time to upgrade, I'm not sure what I'll do, but for now, this is perfectly fine. It works well.
Video cards are all over the map.
Yeah, I mean, why buy another one? So
you forgot the most important question, though.
What's that?
Are you going to put a Big Daddy Linux sticker on it? I got them on mine.
If someone would send me one, maybe I would.
What? Are you kidding me? You'll get them in the mail. Just saying.
So, Eric, since the last time you built a machine, what have you noticed any differences with the new parts that you got? Has it been any easier or more difficult to install, upgrade?
What was cool was that this has the backplate, the I/O ports are all built in to the board. They have a nice shield on there already. I thought that was pretty cool. That was like one difference. But honestly, it's funny. I told my wife this. I haven't built a computer in at least 5 years, maybe more. And I mean, ATX hardware is still ATX hardware. I mean, there's a processor slot, and it's the one thing I'll say is this was really nice with the cooler being able to just have the mount already on the board, and I didn't have to deal with those air coolers can be tricky to put on because they're so big and you bolt it through the board.
Yeah.
But you still get them 5 little cables that come down for your reset button, your power LED, and your hard drive LED that go in there, and you got to figure out which polarity to put them on.
Well, and so that's funny you say that, Dan, because that is still the most tedious part is setting those headers.
It is.
And Kevin, I think since you haven't had to set jumpers on the board and stuff, those were the days where it could have been, it was just so difficult to get everything, the jumpers all set properly, and then your drives slaved properly. And like, none of that exists anymore. You really just plug everything into SATA and put your, the plugs are different sizes now. They used to all sort of be the same. And it was much easier than I expected it to be. And I turned it on and it just worked. I forgot to put in one of the case fans, so I had to pull it back apart.
If you're paying attention, it's really hard to plug the wrong thing in the wrong spot.
I remember many years ago, I was messing around with a computer that my brother's computer guy was fixing his. He gave me an old one and I was messing around with it, and I was really keen to put Linux on it, but it had those little settings for megahertz and you had to dial it. And I read the book and I made sure I did everything right, and I turned it on and just went little cloud of smoke. And that was it. End of story. I set it to the wrong one. I misread the book.
Oops. Once you let the magic smoke out, you can't put it back in.
But you know what, Eric, in fairness, the Wraith coolers now, even though, and you're right, when they ramp up, they do get a little bit noisy, but they are considerably quieter and considerably cooler than what the old AMD CPUs used to be. And those things sounded like a jet winding up every time they started up, and they weren't even under load. So they've gotten much better, even from a stock standpoint.
It's probably the type of thing that if I don't do it soon enough, I'll probably just get used to it and not care anymore and then not bother. But we'll see. For now, I mean, as long as it keeps the CPU cool, which is the whole point. And it's not ridiculously loud. It's just louder. You change one little thing, all of a sudden you hear it. So, no, I mean, building a PC, I know a lot of people don't have the interest, and it does take a little bit of work, but honestly, if you go on PC Part Picker, I mean, you just sort of build out, use frame it out, pick your parts. They all match together. You're going to get the right things. Do a little bit of research. I over-researched it. I mean, I could have been done in 2 hours, but I spent days like looking at benchmarks and being a complete like nerd about it. But I knew what I wanted from the start, and I was trying to convince myself to do something differently, and I didn't. And this is what I ended up with, and so far so good. I'm really looking forward to putting it through its paces, rendering videos and just things that this processor is supposed to be excellent at. And
you'll most likely love it.
The one thing that I will caution anybody, though, who's going to be putting a system together, they need to still look at the individual parts or any specific notes relating to the board and the CPUs going on there. As an example, like the 2700, I didn't do the X, but with the MSI ITX board that I was looking at for, let's say, running Windows 7, even though that's coming to an end, I still plan on running it offline. If I didn't put the proper chip in there, it could have been a problem. It would have required a patch and that sort of thing. So, you do still need to do a little due diligence when it comes to buying the parts themselves. PC Part Picker is awesome. It's an awesome tool, but it's a reference. They still do a lot of times with the AMD processors and the boards, you might see a little asterisk that says you may need a BIOS update. That held true even on this machine here with the freezing issues I was having and stuff. So, just a side note for anybody that's looking to do something like that.
It's an awesome reference for something that when I started building my first PC, I didn't have that, and that would have been awesome to have because I don't know how many times I got the wrong part.
Yeah, it does give you a good idea on compatibility issues. That's the biggest thing from it.
And I know they're not really easy to use, but just check out YouTube. There are so many technical channels out there that can give you hints and tips on how to do things. I mean, I was literally just watching one the other day from J2 Cents, and he was having a meltdown because he just put together a 2700X AMD, and then he went on to this rant about every single time they bring out a new AMD chip, they haven't got this ready, they haven't got that ready. And on this particular thing, all he did was he went and did the latest MSI BIOS update, and now he has to reset the thing about 10 times before it'll boot once.
Actually, that was a 3900X.
Messed up.
Yeah, I saw that same video. It was a 3900X. It was the latest.
It was a 3900X. Wow.
And this is yet another reason why I suggest to people, if you're building a PC, I know there's the appeal of the latest and greatest, and certainly if you have the money, it could be a thing. If you use it, if you like it, if it's your hobby, whatever. But I will tell you that from building a computer, if you stick one generation behind, all of those things are worked out before you even open the door to start. Like they're saying with YouTube and all these different sites, if you go right now and look for a 2700X build video, there's hundreds of them. But if you look for articles on it, they're everywhere. And so everybody's already made the mistakes you might make, run into the problems that you might run into. And so it just makes it so much easier. And frankly, I would get maybe 10, 15% more performance out of a 3700, and it's just not going to matter to someone like me. I saved myself hundreds of dollars. The only part the two things I did not skimp on the motherboard, I could have gone with a B450, and there's nothing wrong with a B450, but the 470 is a little more future-proof, and the memory, I could have gone with just standard, 16 latency memory and, 3000, 28, I don't remember the speed of it. So it was a difference of almost $50 for better memory. And for me, that makes a big difference. The board and the memory and the chip are the core of the system. And so if you sort of eke those up as good as you can get them, still be one generation behind. I've always built my systems that way, and I've never had a problem. My last system at i5 for at least 6 years, never once crashed, never had a problem with it.
But I think, Eric, to that point, going back to what you said, it's even more important today about waiting for a generation, not getting the latest generation, than it was 5 years ago, because so many companies like AMD and NVIDIA put out things that aren't ready yet. and they have to release patches on release day and a few weeks after. It's so much more important now than it was a few years ago.
And I think the other thing is that the whole Moore's law thing that we used to deal with, where generationally processors, it was a gigantic leap. It wasn't just this marginal, small gain that we see today. Maybe it's an architecture, maybe the TDP. There are things that they're trying to differentiate, but ultimately the difference between one generation and the next is so slight that you're not really seeing that bump. Whereas 10 years ago, the difference between a Pentium 2 and a Pentium 3 was like, you were in a completely different, stratosphere. Like it was, so I don't know. I think today, a lot of that, it's just like smartphones, right? I have a smartphone that's a couple years old. There's nothing on the market that's so vastly better than what I have that makes me want to jump and do it. And that could just be me. My like I said,
Today
hold on.
Today on a newer machine, I think the biggest jump you can make is to go from spinning Rust to an SSD. You'll see the biggest improvement.
Well, part of the problem, Eric, what you had mentioned before about Moore's law, what's happening now is that the circuitry is getting so small. There is a physical limit, and that physical limit is and I'll put it this way, the diameter, the atomic radius of gold or whatever they're using to make the circuits. And until they can get past that, there will be a limit. And I know I've said that, and some people think that I'm like really weird, but no, I'm coming from the world of chemistry and saying that. And
Quantum
that is,
computers.
huh?
I said
Barb, that's very true.
Quantum computers.
Yeah, but that's still probably, a ways off. It's not going to be like next year. But
you can't go past the laws of physics.
Huh?
You can't go past the laws of physics.
And that's part of it. And, you're already getting close to, you're going to get to the point where you're going to have one atomic layer for that circuitry. And that thing is going to be so sensitive to heat and everything else. So there's an issue there. And that's
preventing energy transfer from going from one layer to the other is nearly impossible at that size.
Exactly. That's the point. And, most people don't even realize that. And you're not going to be able to get beyond, the laws of physics, the laws of chemistry, unless we suddenly go to another universe.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing about that BIOS update that he did, what was really scary about that is he tried to revert back. Not only, using MSI has a nice little setup on the board to revert back, but even at that, it still wasn't working for him. In essence, it seemed, correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, it seemed like the system for all intents and purposes was basically almost bricked. It took 10 tries to boot once.
Yeah, and like you said, he went back to the BIOS that came with the motherboard, but it's as if the damage had already been done internally to the chip, to the AMD chip, and that it couldn't forget. And the other thing that he found really obscure as well, it was trying to pump 1.4 volts through the process, and he was saying that anybody who goes over 1.3 is absolutely crazy, and that's where all this overclocking nonsense just leaves me cold, because I haven't got a clue that they're what they're talking about, so I don't go anywhere near.
So essentially his motherboard overvolted and something's probably physically damaged.
Yes.
Well, you say that because he's had other builds as well that are working perfectly well once he's down voltaged. He said there seems to be a tendency to put 1.45 volts into processors nowadays, and he says that is a ridiculous amount of, and I don't understand the technical reason behind it. But yeah, he may well have, but that was an MSI update.
Yeah,
but he tried,
that shouldn't happen.
On its own, and he tried manually backing the voltage down, and it automatically went back up on its own.
Yeah, that's not good at all.
I don't know if he'll try that chip in another board just to see if it's something going on with the chip, but I think for all intents and purposes, his conclusion was it was the board.
Is AMD still supplying update CPU drop-ins? So they have these things that they were supplying for a while, where it would essentially sit in your CPU slot, and it was just enough to run the motherboard and get it to go through like a BIOS update for the next gen chip. Did he use one of those, or was this just like?
No, this was a software BIOS update.
Okay.
Yeah, no idea. So Very, very strange.
That's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's why in one breath, it's important to look at where your BIOS is at. Like, again, I can't refer back to mine because there was a specific update for AMD processors. In this case here, he admittedly said he did not have any issues with the system as it was, but he did it more for video purposes to do the update and whatever. It was the latest patch, and this is what he dealt with. So, you know, it falls back on the manufacturer. I've got MSIs in here, and I've had good luck with them. Everyone seems to have their quirks, although I know he favors Asus. But I don't know. And then, like, even we were talking about with the little header pins earlier, Gigabyte's the only one that I know of that actually puts out a adapter where you plug everything in ahead of time and you just do one shot and you're in. I don't know why they've never come out with that with all the manufacturers, something as simple as that too for when you're assembling.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. Because of this subject that we're talking about, it's a constant thing nowadays to release stuff, and this includes hardware, it includes software, it includes games. But it's a thing to release software, in my opinion, before release everything before it's ready, in my opinion. And then on release day, on a few weeks after they release, whether it be BIOS updates or kernel updates or whatever it may be. And what do you guys prefer? Do you guys prefer getting the hardware or software or games early?
I'd rather they hold it back. I mean, I think AMD have just announced now that they're not going to bring out the next set of processors until November. Now, that can only be because they've found problems that they need to fix. So I don't care if I have to wait until April next year to look at the next processor. Give me one that just works.
That does bring up the whole problem with since there is so much hardware and so many configurations that people are running, they do extensive testing on these boards because they've got an entire team of researchers and a massive R&D budget pouring into developing these chipsets, the software, the hardware. But they can't account for every single combination that people are going to run. They can't account for every failed BIOS update. Like there are a lot of things that they just physically cannot test during the development process, which is why a week after release, people start finding issues. And that's when all the patches start flooding in, is because they had no idea it was a problem until somebody created that combination or had that issue.
But see, there's this between AMD and Intel, though. There's always this race to get out, and especially since AMD came back from death's door, because they were basically a company that was about to just fold. And they've done a fabulous job coming back. But now when they're releasing something new, there's this big hype statements that are coming out about how great it really is and how much better this is and that. And I beg to differ in the sense where I don't think they're still doing enough testing. They're worried about getting it out and we'll patch it later kind of a thing. Because I agree with like what Rock was saying. Years ago, stuff wasn't rushed out and hurried out like it is now. And it's no different than like when you buy a new vehicle, new model year, you got to wait and see what bugs come out of it too. I would never buy something the minute it's released, if nothing else, because there's going to be issues with it coming out.
Well, that's the thing. AMD is getting a track record now for hyping things up, releasing it, and it not being ready, and they have to release zero day or release day fixes for this stuff. Adam, you're into this stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, I think AMD does have kind of a track record of doing that. Intel, they release new stuff pretty frequently, but at the same time, like I don't tend to hear the same problems when it comes to Intel. Which
do you remember
I think their underlying like systems are fairly similar, like their chipsets and everything are fairly similar. I'm not sure if the 10th generation stuff, the Ice Lake or whatever it is, I don't know if that's going to have the same problems at all. But yeah, I don't generally see that on the Intel side. They only see those problems with the AMD stuff, and it's not just their CPUs; their GPUs have the same problem as well. Whether and oftentimes it's not necessarily the hardware that's flawed; it's their firmware or their drivers or any number of software problems that later get fixed, certainly down the line. But I do hear that they don't really give their motherboard manufacturers enough lead time to really prepare their motherboards for these things, and that also leads to problems.
Well, what would you prefer? Would you prefer them to release it early like they're doing and fix it later, or would you prefer they hold it?
I feel like you should hold it, mainly because this is like the core of the machine, right? Like it's not like, oh well, the GPU drivers aren't ready, so I'll just wait and get a different GPU. Like this is like the core of your machine, right? So
yeah, I mean, I think it depends on whether you're talking about hardware or software too, because like once hardware gets fired, like you can't really do anything about it. But
software, yeah, but we'll just switch that over to what you're talking about, Kevin. A game, say a game that comes out, and many games today are either doing the early release or they release it and then they have to have multiple patches as a few days later. Would you prefer them to hold a game till it's properly finished, or would you prefer to get it sooner?
I mean, personally, and I'm speaking as a developer here, but like as somebody that likes to tinker and stuff, I like the fact that I can get involved a little bit sooner and like get some of my input heard on, you know, like issues or like changes I'd like with the game and stuff like that. I like to be able to experiment with things, and you know, that kind of early release model gives you a way to do that. Some people handle it better than others, obviously, and it's definitely not for everybody. And people that buy into that kind of thing, expecting, you know, a full-fledged product, are obviously often disappointed. But I think that has a lot to do with marketing and not so much with the release model, I guess.
Okay, well, here's a good example for you, and Shikin will know a lot more about this than we do. Elementary never issue anything early. It's always, we're going to issue it when it's ready. Now, I'm not a big elementary user, so I don't really remember. But do they have those first day blues, Shikin, where they put stuff out and they've held it and held it and held it, release it? Oh, look, this don't work or that don't work. Do they still suffer that because they hold it back?
So yeah, like one of the things is that like the goal is ultimately to solve as many problems that are known about as quickly as possible. Now, one thing to note though is that you have to actually know about the problems to know you have to solve them. So we'll take the 5.0 release. That took a long time to drop. There was a lot of waiting for it. Everybody was excited. Everybody was waiting. Everybody was hoping it would get fixed. But there were a list of things that they knew about that were problems that the OS was not going to be released until those were fixed. And some of them were fairly minor issues. But after release, I don't know if you guys remember, we did a distro challenge on it. People had issues with the printer GUI. So despite all of the testing that was done, there was still that one particular issue that people ran into, because that was something that I guess the printing system itself, so like the underlying components, all of that worked perfectly, but the control system on top of it was not properly speaking to that layer. So that wasn't known about until after people started plugging in, you know, all of their printers. I guess, you know, everybody's got like, you know, brother printers, Canon printers, whatever. And then people realized, I can't control this. So, you know, they rushed pretty quickly to fix that, and it got fixed, but it was still a release day issue that had occurred despite the months of testing.
Yes, but I would say that would be an issue, definitely. But that's not a game breaker issue. That's not where you release a CPU and you can't boot your machine.
You don't fry something at that point.
Okay, so that can happen to anybody, any software, any hardware, anytime. Elementary takes its time and does a great job at making sure it's working when it comes out. I'm more concerned about people like AMD, who you got major issues some days. Scott?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. And I don't mean to bust the predictions, but I think you remember back in January we had predictions for the year. And I mentioned that AMD was going to break into the lead with their chipsets for CPU and GPU in the 7 nanometer range. In they didn't have a projection in January, but in March they came out and projected that release to be June. So in relation to what we're talking about, even though they projected for June, they still held back for more hard testing, trying to break it and whatnot, and for widely acceptable across the industry from motherboard makers. And now we're into September, and they're just now getting ready to release it. Still an issue, because one of the reasons that I don't think that jumping on board as soon as possible, as soon as it's released, is because, well, they ran into the manufacturers of the chipsets having problems and won't be able to supply the demand. They're looking at production slowing down or stopping because of the lack of availability for the chipsets from the manufacturer.
And
So
going into that with what Adam said is that, you know, they spend all this time working on this, and like Adam was saying, with not giving enough time to the motherboard manufacturers, is because they've spent so much time trying to get everything else ready and everything else pushed, that by the time they can give anything to the manufacturers because they've deemed it okay to do so, there's like no time for them to get production ready for it, no time for them to do testing. And so I don't know if you guys watched the launch of the 3000 series, 3 series, whatever it was, the newest Ryzen stuff. But if you guys saw that, like, the information that was available for the motherboard partnerships and specs was sparse and often inconsistent. So like nobody knew what was going on.
The Navi GPUs are on schedule and well supported. It's the Ryzen 3000 series chips for the CPUs that are holding them back because manufacturers didn't get on board.
Right. Bill?
So I know there's some people that are a little bit older than others in here, but do you guys remember the Death Star fiasco? So, this is IBM, a fairly significant corporation, releasing hard drives that had the Death Star hard drives, and it got the nickname
You had to
Death
write the first
Star
name.
because of all the issues. And so that there was actual lawsuits. So, and that was like 20 years ago, something like that, 15, 20 years ago.
Yep.
So it isn't a new issue in tech. And if you do enterprise level stuff, the stuff that you get told that some of the enterprise level software and hardware will do, and when it gets delivered, what the sales engineer told you and what it can actually do when it arrives are two different things. So this isn't new. And this isn't like, let's bash on AMD, let's bash on NVIDIA, let's bash on Intel. This is everywhere. And it comes down to more of a dollars and cents thing, where there are things that have to get out the door based on this. And there are pressures on these companies to get stuff out that are so far beyond the tech, because the tech doing the testing can do only so much. And let's go software, and let's go to something let's go into Linux Spotlight. You had Sean on there this week.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about how he didn't own a high def monitor. And so this is Xfce, which, you know, is I'll say it's one of the big 3 of the DEs, because almost every Linux distribution offers, you know, GNOME, KDE, and Xfce.
Right.
Here's one of the leads of a major distro, plus one of the tech leads in Xfce, who can't even write or test for something that's pretty big, and, you know, it's 4K monitors are huge.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just on the open source level, where there's not, for some of the projects are so small and don't have all the hardware to test. But when you go to a company like IBM, they have a lot of money, and everybody bashes Microsoft. Oh, they just have the end user do all the testing. Microsoft tests the product. But sometimes when things get out, let's say I have a motherboard from Gigabyte, I have a motherboard from Asus. I'm not sure where they're getting their products. I'm sending them a chip. So many things can go wrong. And I think it's like what Eric said. If you step one generation back, you're much safer. And it's not new, and it's never going to change.
Well, I think you're correct that it's not new, but I think it's highlighted more today than it ever has been. It's more across the board than it ever has been. Like
know about
mentioned
it,
that.
right?
Yeah,
Because
well, yes, that's true. It's definitely more, but like the Death Star fiasco. Okay, that that instance of that wasn't across the board for every maker of hard drives. Right now, it's across the board that most companies are rushing out products, and it goes back to what you said, Bill. It's more about the pressure of the what the other companies are doing that they have to keep up with. They have to have certain releases for stockholders and whatever to show that they are, growing and whatnot. So I just think that it's a shame because the people that are buying the first generation, the latest generation stuff, are actually suffering for it. So I would probably suggest to what Eric said and stay a generation back.
Yeah, I think for the most part, like we want companies to test things and get things through with as quickly as they can, but also as thoroughly as they can. And it's kind of problematic because I know we see this in like AMD. They have a history of releasing things before they're really ready. And I don't know if it's because AMD doesn't really know when things are actually ready, or if it's just that they're in a rush to get things out because there's a lot of pressure on them. But we see these things in other companies as well. And an example would be, I know I'm going to talk about cars again, but Chevy uses the Cruze. I don't know if you guys know what that model of car is, but it's like the smaller version of the Malibu. That's their testing unit. If you guys aren't aware of this, Chevy uses that to test features for the Malibu. So anytime you drive a Cruze, it's essentially testing the next generation features for the Malibu. And every company has their sort of testing sort of cat, their little guinea pig. And there was a huge issue with the turbochargers that they were using in the Cruze in 2017, where they weren't producing enough power and they weren't producing it quickly enough, and the fuel mixtures were totally off. So despite the fact that they did all of that testing in that little guinea pig model, it still went in next generation into the Malibu. So I think the 2018 Malibus had this problem where you would step on the gas and you'd be waiting for power, despite the fact that they already knew about it. But because they had put so much into trying to get this in, get this out the door, and get this pushed, like people ended up having to deal with it anyway because there's so much pressure on them to get things moving.
Yep. Chris, you had your hand up.
Yeah, this is kind of tangentially related. I don't know how germane it's going to be to the discussion, but at work, we've been having problems where our client PCs are not booting. They come up and they do the disk encryption, and then it comes up and just gives a black screen. And what it is that the Dell BIOS is not matching whatever our IT security people have been pushing out lately. And so what we have to do is we have to go, and that's what I was kind of doing tonight during the show as well, is downloading all the latest Dell BIOS, put them on a flash drive, so we can bring them over onto the machines and not have to re-image the machines all the time. And so, I mean, there seems to be either a disconnect. I don't know if it's with our IT security people who are pushing these patches out, or with Microsoft and the fact that they're not, they're saying, oh, we have a hole for this, let's patch this hole, and all of a sudden it breaks communication it had, and it doesn't hand the bootstrap over or something. I don't know what's going on with that. But it seems as though it's something that's happening industry-wide. It's not just Linux or Apple, the Apple OS. iOS has always been wonderful. They've always never had any upgrade problems, have they? So I really don't know where I was going with that.
I think there is a big push, I guess, that, to the point you made there, that, software, especially software companies, to some degree hardware companies, are trying to get things in the hands of users sooner. So they have a chance to try things out. They get feedback sooner on what's wrong with it and the things they need to fix. And that winds up being cheaper for the companies in the long run because they find out sooner, they fix it sooner, and they don't have to deal with, recalling tens of thousands of units or whatever it might be.
For what it's worth, software development used to follow something called waterfall, which was more of a very slow burn. And you set the requirements and the contents of a release very early on. And it took a very long time then to get any changes in. So even things like break fixes or bugs or anything like that was a major problem to deal with. And the development philosophy today of quicker sprints and rolling releases and things like that, it does introduce the potential for more bugs, but ultimately the developers are able to deliver something to the consumer much more quickly and also more iteratively, where they can take feedback from people, build it into the next release. And if someone's releasing something on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, I mean, Firefox just said they're going to switch to a monthly release cycle.
Yep.
So, on one hand, that's great because we'll get features sooner. On the other hand, it is possible that we get more bugs.
Nate, you wanted to say something?
Yep. So we've been kind of picking on AMD, but did we forget what Intel has been letting go for 20 years?
Oh, you mean like security?
Yeah.
Your meltdown.
No, I mean, I just don't want we're kind of harping on AMD just a bit. But I mean,
the intention was not to harp on AMD. They just are the biggest culprit nowadays of hyping something and not having it completely working on release day.
Yeah. If we do look at Intel's problem with that in particular, when the Spectre thing was known about, they knew about it before, I think it was Coffee Lake released. But they had everything ready for Coffee Lake, so they still shipped it despite it being knowingly broken on a physical level. So they do that stuff too.
Yeah, I'm going to say that it's very often that manufacturers will ship something and say, well, we can fix it later. It just because they have people in marketing tend to say it's got to be shipped now. The business, the business leader says it's got to go, and they just let it go.
Yeah. The thing with Intel, though, is they knew it was broken from day one. They just didn't think computers would ever get fast enough to be able to do what they knew was a back door. So, as I say, from the very first time the die hit the mechanical deck or whatever it does, they knew there was going to be a fault. They just didn't think it was fast enough.
Yep. Well, Steve, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good.
You didn't get in on the MX talk.
No, I'll probably talk next week. I did a little bit. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far.
Yep.
Cool. Rocco, I've actually found something that I'd forgotten about, so it's probably not got a lot of time to talk about it now. But do you remember the big thing that blew up a couple of months ago when Ubuntu said, oh, that's it, we're not going to do 32-bit anymore?
Right.
Well, they've now issued their list of what they are going to support. And I'm just about to put it in YouTube chat. They're not going to support every single piece of 32-bit software. They've put together a list of what they think they need to support. Now, this list came out on September the 17th. And yet the industry, or we as the users, haven't picked up on it again. And I'm wondering how many people in the know could look through that list and go, well, that's missing and that's missing and that's, because there's not a lot of items here. There's so together with the binary dependencies of all the packages, this gives us a list of 227 source packages that we will keep to ensure that i386 continues to work. I don't know how many packages are being dropped, but it'd be interesting to find out from our developer community if they know, is this list going to be good enough?
So, Zeb, on that front, I know someone that was actually at that sprint and worked on that. one of the things that they have sent out to developers is please tell us if something that's not on this list needs to be on here, if it's going to break something. So that has been sent out because Wimpy was involved with that discussion, and they sent out to the developing team to, if something's missing, you need to let us know so that we can add it back into this list.
Yeah, and that's the development team for Ubuntu or for every?
No, they sent that out on their list, and so I mean, I'm assuming that the Steam developer should be watching that since they're important things there. I would assume that they would see that and go, let me look over these things and say, oh, I need X, Y, and Z, and to flag that for the dev team to include into this package.
Right. So they've not said this is the definitive list. They're willing to add to it afterwards.
Yeah, Bill's right. They sent that out pretty wide, and they're soliciting feedback to other developers to take a look at it, and if there's anything that needs to get added, they're willing to look into that and add them in. So I think this is a better approach.
Sounds like they learned their lesson, Dan.
I think so.
Eric, you were going to say something about that?
What was interesting to me was the way that the methodology they used. So they didn't just randomly, say that these are the most important. They looked at what's being used, what's being installed, and also what others have given them feedback on. So like Bill said, I mean, they're going to get more feedback in that list of 200 some might be and 300 some or something like that. But ultimately, the thousands of other packages that are out there that people just really aren't using. And that was their point of contention all along, was that we're maintaining these and they're really not even, there's no upstream maintenance being done. They're not being maintained upstream. They're not being developed actively. And worse than that, downstream, people aren't even using them. So it's just this incredible waste of time and energy to package these things when no one is using them. So the methodology they used was pretty sound from what I can tell. I mean, I wasn't there, but from what they posted. And if the other interested parties can give them feedback and there's another 20, 30, 50, however many packages that people say, no, we really do need that, then at least that gets them down to a reasonable level of maintenance on these packages. So it just seems like something that has to happen, right? I mean, it's one of those things where people want to say, well, no, you can't take these things away because we need them, but there's absolutely no proof that anyone's using them. And if they put out this call and people don't say, no, we do need them, then really people don't need them. And it's more about just this fear of losing something that really isn't valuable in the slightest. So I think it's a good thing.
Well, I think, Zeb, you said it came out a couple days ago and nobody's picked up on it really. I think that, I mean, does that say anything? Because of that fact that it came out a few days ago and nobody said anything about it, that it's not a big issue?
Well, again, it's not a big issue because people don't realize what's going to break. I'm hoping that they've got a lot of stuff in there to keep old printers working, etc., etc. I would think they would do, but I guess the question is, how long do we have to keep that 15-year-old printer working?
Yeah, where do you draw the line?
I think it's not a big issue because this is the interim releases. Once we hit the next LTS, then everybody will start using it, and then there will be issues probably.
Yep. All right.
Awesome.
Anybody got anything they got to add? Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I dropped a link in the YouTube chat for the actual thread on the Ubuntu forums. About the,
yes, I did that when I first started talking, yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's cool. It's good it's in there twice because chat went berserk and it's gone.
All right, so you can go look at the list if you'd like. It's there if you want to look at it. But we are out of time for this week. Chicken, what do you got, brother?
It's still the beta 1 for MX, right? Is there a second beta?
Beta 2.
Two.
Second beta, yeah.
And I would hope that they would get a beta 3 out maybe this week. Just saying, maybe. Hoping. Wishful
The good
thinking.
news is whether you've installed beta 1, beta 2, or you wait for the next one, it will just automatically roll on.
Well, regardless of it, it's running way better than a beta does. Just saying. So, all right, that's it. Everybody gets the last word, though. Zeb.
Well, my last word this week is I love coming here. I love speaking to you guys. We get so many different viewpoints and interactions on things, and it really opens up my mind that when I'm doing this testing, don't just test what you use. Think of it like, because the crazy thing is, I guess I'm just switching my brain off because my day-to-day job is I'm a software tester. So I should be finding all of this stuff, but I get to Linux and I just want to do what I want to do. So that's why I love coming to this community. And I really want to put out there a huge heartfelt thanks to Rocco for hosting this every week. I don't know where I'd go without it. It's absolutely brilliant. So Rocco, thank you.
Awesome. Chris, last word.
Hey, had fun as usual, and look forward to next week. And just a reminder to everybody who's out in the side chat there to hit that thumbs up. It helps the channel grow. And subscribe.
And join the after show. Ali, last word.
Yeah, enjoy being back again. I've been listening more than I've been talking, which is cool. I've learned a lot tonight, actually, about different things. Yeah, I really enjoy it. And especially what Zeb said about testing, where I shouldn't just test the apps I know and think, oh, cool, they work, that's fine then. Great distro. I should be testing stuff that out of my comfort zone. Yeah, so it's a good idea, though. I don't know why I hadn't thought of it before.
It's good to have you
Anyway,
back, Ali.
thank you for having me, Rocco. It's been brilliant. Brilliant night.
Yep, it's good to have you back, brother.
Thank you.
Aris?
Thank you for the stream. Hopefully this week I will be able to test MX, and I look forward to that.
All right. Kevin?
Yeah, thanks everyone for the conversation today, for joining in chat. Just reminding everybody to join us in Discord for after show shenanigans, and good luck to Eric on his new PC build.
Dan, last word.
Thanks as always, Rocco, and thanks to Zeb and Eric for all he does with Discourse and the web site. And thanks to the MX team for bringing us one of the stalwart distributions out there. It's always one of the ones you can turn to and count on. So that's pretty fantastic, honestly. Look forward to the next biddle.
Nice. Colin?
Yes, it's always great to be here, Rocco. Thanks for putting this on. It's always good. And Zeb is always doing stuff in the background there. It's awesome. Just want to know, Chicken, are you coming down under? Because I can give you some driving lessons, mate.
Honestly, I've seen some of the roads in Australia, and they scare me, man.
But I will continue to try out MX this week and hopefully get a video out about that, and maybe even put a bug report in if needed to be. Does that mean I have to sign up to Bug Tracker? Does that mean another password I have to remember? Because I'm struggling with all the other ones I've got so far.
You need a password manager, Colin.
No, it scares me to have a password manager that knows all your passwords. And if I forget that password manager, that's end of story, isn't it? I just don't trust myself for that.
Just let Google remember it for you.
Right? See, Vashness.
We won't tell anybody else, honest.
There's nothing interesting for me, to be honest. But yep, I'll probably be watching next week from over east. I'm flying the whole length of the country across the other side, so I'll be over there with family. So I'll be watching next week, and I'll be in chat. So I doubt whether I'll be on video. So yep, have a good week, everyone, and I'll see you in chat next week. And thanks, Rocco.
Awesome. Derek, last word.
I just want to say again, thank you for having me on here. Also, Yeah, and we're getting some more practice on MX over this week. I'm not going to be doing another hop onto a different OS, hopefully. But you guys have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.
All right, Vince, last word.
Thank you again, guys. Thank you, especially Rocco, Zeb, Dan, especially Eric as well. One thing I'd probably say is that take-home message is if you find any bugs or anything that you'd like to report, do so. It really helps the developers out.
Yep. Tony.
Yeah. Thanks, Rocco, for doing this again this week, and to Zeb for doing his bits and pieces that he does, whatever they are. But it keeps it going. That's the main thing. Next week, I hope to still be running MX and still enjoying it. That's the plan, anyway. I probably will be here next week, but it's a little bit iffy. The week after, probably not, but that's also a little bit iffy. I'm not sure what's happening yet, but I'll try to keep you guys in touch. So, if I'm here, I'm here. If I'm not, you probably won't miss me. There's enough people in here, so it's okay. But I'll look forward to next week or whenever the next one is that I can make.
We will miss the radio voice, Tony.
Thank you, Rocco. That's much appreciated. Anyway, take care, everyone, till next week. And it's great to see so many people this week. It's a large number, and that's really good.
Joe, last word.
Well, Rocco, thank you to everybody as usual, and for having this stream. It's always a blast. I do like MX. I always have. I think it's right up there with Peppermint for Xfce. I think it's one of the two top best distros out there, of course, and that's not going on DistroWatch's ratings. And you're just biased because you like Genome, but we won't hold that against you. So, but anyway, no, I think it just comes down to, like you said, Rocco, whatever works best for you and your use case. I've gotten more used to Xfce because I use Peppermint on my other machine over there, and I do like the Whisker menu because I remember when that was first coming out, you really were anxiously waiting for that because I remember it had its little bit of quirks too, where when you would install something and the icons weren't showing up in it, and now it's look, here we are, a year later or so, and it's fine, it's tweaked. So that's the beauty of Linux is, I'd like to think that in some small way, what we all do here, no matter how insignificant it seems, that hopefully this helps it become better and better all the time. So, and then of course, enjoying the company of everybody too. So thanks again, and hope to see you next week.
Barbara, last word.
Okay, yeah, I want to thank you, Rocco, for hosting this, as I thank you every week. And I will have MX. I will have tried it by next week, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Okay.
I got it.
It's been a long day, that's all. So my brain's kind of like Jell-O.
Scott, last word.
Last word. Oh, yes. Great input from the panel today and from the YouTube channel as well. Thanks for everybody that came to the YouTube channel to chat with us. I'm still testing MX Linux, so we'll conclude that next week with some more. Great show always, Rocco and Zeb and the team that helps you out. Everyone, remember, you can join the community at the website. Make sure you check out all the links there for all the information. So anyway, single click and right-hand road rules for the win.
Dan, last word.
Well, Rocco, thanks for putting on such a wonderful show. People don't realize that we exchange a huge amount of valuable knowledge here. And 10, 20 years ago, you wouldn't think of it. You'd have to use a telephone or get a book or something to figure it out. So I'm going to put the MX back in. It's right here. We'll take it for a spin some more and take some better notes, and I'll get a hold of the MX people. I'm pretty sure part of my problems is with my hardware. And with that said, thanks, everybody.
Eric, last word.
I wasn't paying attention. I'm too busy playing with my computer. Thanks, Rocco, for having this. I love, seeing everybody's faces and getting to say hi to everyone. It's been a crazy, crazy hectic week, and so this was it's soothing to hear everyone. I was paying attention. I wasn't looking, but I was paying attention. So, as always, just everyone have a great week. I hope everyone stays safe and happy and healthy. And Rocco, I might have missed it, but did you say who's coming up on the Spotlight this week?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Eric. We had Sean Davis this past week, and if you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. Sean contributes a ton of work to the Linux community, and he's a great guy to boot. So you should watch that. But this coming Wednesday, Alan Pope will be on Linux Spotlight. So you will get to not only everybody knows he works for Canonical, but you will get to know his history and his computers and how he got started in Linux and a few other things. So check that out. Chicken, last word.
Oh, that's me, isn't it?
That's you, brother.
This is fun. I like this a lot, and you guys are cool. Yeah.
Big Pod, last word.
My laptop is again at service center.
Bless.
It's on a preschool check, so when I get it back, it will be the best condition for school.
Dig it. Adam, last word.
Thanks for the show, Rocco. Thanks for showing up, everybody. You should all try GNOME 3.34. It is all that you can imagine it could be, and then some. Do it. Just do it. Just do it. Okay. Have a good day.
If you don't want to try it, at least go watch Adam's stream from earlier this week.
I did stream earlier this week, and it was a good time. So.
Yep. So you want to put a link in YouTube for that?
No.
Eric, can you grab a link and put it in the YouTube chat?
Yes.
Thanks. Nate, last word.
Hey, thanks again for having me. To dovetail into what Vince said earlier, if you have bug reports, or if you have a bug and you don't know how to file a bug report, I'm on the discourse, I'm on Telegram, I'm in Discord. I will help you file a bug report. Once you start filing bug reports, you'll think they're fun and exciting, and you'll look for reasons to file them later and fix everything, and then you get kind of bored. So I will be more than happy to help walk you through it, or even file it for you, but preferably walk you through it. And thanks again for the stream and everything that you do, and still letting me join. So that's awesome. Thanks.
All right, Bill, last word.
Rocco, thank you so much. Zeb, thank you. Eric, thank you for all the stuff you do. And Dan, thank you for being just awesome. I just want to dovetail on something. We're doing Xfce with MX. Go listen to the Linux Spotlight with Sean. It is awesome. It is excellent. And you do a great job interviewing people, Rocco. So just do that.
Just do it. Daniel, last word.
Yeah, Rocco, thank you for everything that you do, along with Zeb, Eric, Dan, everyone who helps out with the show. This is a blast. I have so much fun. This week was just a lot of listening, but it was cool. I always learn something. Joe, thanks for the tips on my my boot menu debacle. So I will I'll drop something in Telegram or something if it actually works. But I'll give MX a run this week and talk about it next week. So everybody have a great week.
Steve?
Thank you, Rocco. Thanks to everybody that is on the Biddle Telegram page. A couple of times that I've asked for help, Chicken and Frank and even Barb have jumped on there, and it's a really great place to go. And Barb, can you just have a birthday?
Yeah, Thursday.
Happy birthday.
Happy
Mine's
birthday,
coming
Barb.
up. Another September, baby.
Happy birthday.
And my birthday is on Talk Like a Pirate Day.
21 again, right, Barb?
Yeah,
Happy birthday,
gotten
Bob.
past that. I'm still that.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Barb.
Thank you very much.
Surely you should now become Pirate Barb, not Piper Barb.
Yeah, that's true, but I've had Piper Barb for a long time.
All right, Ivan, last word.
Do you guys hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
So thank you as always for this great stream. I truly enjoy it. Even if I can't talk to you guys from here, or if I'm just over the chat or on YouTube, I mean, it is a really nice, great experience. Thank you, Seb, Rocco, and Eric. The website is incredible. I mean, I went through it for days looking for any possible thing that I could think of that I would find on any other website, and it is so smooth, so great. That's a really fantastic job, Eric. Really, I love it, and thank you all in the community. Well, I'm just looking forward to trying MX a little bit more this week, and like single clicking and all, and and I'll let you know how it goes.
All right. Thank you, man. Vash, last word.
Well, thanks for the stream as always. I believe I'm going to start researching a build for any machine here soon, because the Optimus NVIDIA card has just irritated me for the last time. So anyway, double click for the win, and that is all.
Wow, way to end it. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you to the MX developers for all of the hard work that you guys put into MX every day without pretty much any reward whatsoever. So we appreciate that. Also want to thank each and every one of you for being here, because without all of you guys here, it would be nothing. All right. The last thing is I want to say happy birthday to my dad, who has a birthday tomorrow.
Ooh.
So happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Gotta love the September
Happy
people, I'll tell you.
And until
Happy birthday.
next week, long live Linux.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, all.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everybody.
Alex says goodbye.